Have you ever wanted to become the greatest president of the United States ever? Have you ever wanted to manifest destiny and reclaim your backyard? Well, me too. Do you ever get offended when people refer to the US as America? Well, today, there will be no confusion, my friend. I will teach you how to speedrun the annexation of the entire Western Hemisphere into the great United States. So, without further ado, let's make an empire. So, first things first for this speedrun, you need to understand the phases. I have decided to divide the speedrun into 5 manageable phases to make it easier to understand. Phase 1 is the early game. Phase 2 is Canada and setup. Phase 3 is Blitz. Phase 4 is cleanup. And Phase 5 is the finale. I will also be doing this in a private server, 1, to make demonstration easier, and 2, because I'm a scared little bitch. Alright, now that you understand, let's go ahead and get started. For this guide, I'll be using a game that I did as an example to all of you. I did this very quickly, so pay attention. Additionally, I'll give some background information on what we should be doing. And I might pause here and there. So immediately at the start of the game, there's a few things that are happening. 1, I justify a liberation war against Cuba. 2, I move my troops from Miami over to Sierra Leone. 3, I justify conquest against Sierra Leone. You may be asking yourself why we liberate Cuba. The reason why is because the United States starts the game as a democratic nation. Cuba starts as a communist nation. They are actually one of 2 countries in the entire game that starts communist, the other being North Korea. And we need to go communist for many reasons, such as a 3 stability hit on conquest wars, longer justification times, more military upkeep, and lower manpower increase. All of these debuffs hurt your ability to take land in wars, and we cannot have this. So, you'll start a liberation war against Cuba and invade with around 200 to 300,000 troops. When Cuba has collapsed, you will need to send very specific terms, and be careful. I'm going to go on a tangent here, but I promise it's important. In Rise of Nations, AI countries will never accept any peace terms other than white peace unless they have lost 90% of their population. As soon as you have taken 90%, they will always accept anything. Oh, and when I say any terms, I do mean any. You cannot send terms to AI to give them money or resources unless you have taken a majority of their cities. The way this relates to the speedrun is that Cuba will not automatically accept the terms we are going to give them, even though they are favorable and good for them. This is why we must invade them with troops. Alright, side tangent over. Now the peace terms. You're going to click concede terms and scroll down until you find enforce ideology. If it says that in the description, we will be forced to convert to Cuba's ideology, you know you have done it right. This process will give you a very bad national modifier called forced regime change. Forced regime change grants you minus 25% tax income, minus 33% political power gain, minus 25% stability, minus 50% resource output, and minus 50% factory output. These modifiers can hurt you greatly if you're not careful, but luckily the terms only last 1 year. We need to get forced regime change as quickly as possible so we can get the more positive aspects of communism. To help counteract this, use the policy forced labor for dissidents. Next I do my research, assign a military group, assign a general, and start moving my troops. Next I make sure to auto-assign my troops to the military group, and then start making troops in Florida. Next, I make sure my whole home guard is assigned to the military general. Then I make some troops in Los Angeles. After that, I declare war on Cuba and move my troops over to invade. After that, I begin making my industry in the central US. I make 3 of every type of factory and 1 aircraft manufacturing. During the process of making my industry, I then justify a conquest war against Mexico. I move the majority of my home guard over to San Antonio, Texas, and then start buying up the resources I need for my factories. As soon as the Cuban home guard is destroyed, I then start splitting my troops and mass invading. After that, in preparation of war with Mexico, I move my troops from Los Angeles over to the Pacific to invade the west coast of Mexico. I make sure to build all of my factories on square cities to get the extra resource income. If you don't know what that is, each factory that is built on a square city that is fully operational and running and producing anything, any factory, will give you an extra $250,000 in income. So, if you have 10 square cities all with factories on it, you'll be making a lot more money than somebody that doesn't. You can see this in your resource income in the economy tab. I then choose the policy, advance the research bureau, and then I start moving my troops over to the border with Mexico. I make 240,000 troops in Phoenix, Arizona. Because my troops are going to be moved out of Los Angeles, I'll need some troops to capture the northern part of Mexico. So, I use a small amount of troops to capture Baja California. Next, I make some troops in Florida, and then split my border stack into a big line. The troops in Florida get moved to the Gulf of Mexico and prepare for a naval invasion. I split the Gulf troops and get ready for war with Mexico. I want to declare as soon as the war is justified. I declare the war and send in all my troops to start blitzing Mexico. Also, I'm about to go on a tangent here, but I promise it's important. The reason why you go for Mexico first is because they actually start pretty powerful. Mexico starts as strong as Russia in the early game. So, the longer they're alive, the longer they can challenge you for. If you snipe Mexico early, they'll have less time to prepare and get ready for your invasion. I concede terms to Cuba and become communist. As soon as I'm communist, I then start justifying war against Brazil. When war with Sierra Leone is justified, I immediately declare and send in my troops. Once my justification slot is free, I then justify against Canada. I begin building up my tanks to invade. I put some tanks on the west coast and put a lot on the east coast. At this point, Phase 1 is pretty much over and we're on to Phase 2. If you're justifying against Canada and it's still 2019, you're ahead of time. As soon as war with Canada is ready, I split my tanks, declare the war, and start invading. I then immediately start justifying against Guatemala and Belize. I begin building up a large force of tanks in Puerto Rico in preparation to invade Venezuela. I then justify war with Honduras and El Salvador. Once it looks like you've taken a majority of Mexico's cities, go ahead and select their cities and try to force peace them. Most of the time they'll accept. There's no reason to try to take Mexico City and waste troops. I then justify against Nicaragua and Costa Rica. A big thing you'll see in many speedruns, but especially this one, is that you're always justifying a war. In Rise of Nations, if you want to succeed, you have to always be justifying a war. Never stop justifying. And it doesn't even hurt to do it either. It only helps you. Once it looks like I've taken a majority of Canada's cities, I go ahead and force peace them. After that, I immediately form an AU. The reason why you should always do formables during speedruns is because whenever you do a formable, it automatically integrates every single city from that formable and removes all unrest. So, I instantly have Mexico and Canada as my core territory in 2019 or 2020. This is very, very useful in speedrunning as it completely removes unrest, which makes it where you can create troops there now, and it gives you a manpower and money increase. There is no downside to forming formals. However, if you're playing casually and you don't like the flag of the formal, or you don't like the name, then more power to you. Whenever I play this casually, I do not form NAU because I don't like the flag. But during the speedrun, it's pretty essential to form NAU. I consider this to be the end of Phase 2, and now we're on to Phase 3, which is called Blitz. During Phase 3, I declare war on most of Central and South America and start sending troops in. I went ahead and declared war on all the Central American states down to Colombia, and then I justified against Venezuela. Additionally, I also split my tanks in Puerto Rico and prepared them for the naval invasion. As soon as I declare war on Venezuela, they're all going to go in. I also start jungle training my infantry. I'm very, very ahead of time with these war goals, so my tanks are a little early, but the infantry will catch up. After that, I start making some troops in Mexico. These troops are going to be used to invade Chile. A lot is happening right now, so I'll have to get back to that. I declare war on Venezuela and start sending my tanks in. And then I justify against Trinidad and Tobago, and then I also justify against Guyana. Next, I start making some troops in Florida. I'm going to jungle train these troops and send them to Maranhão in northeast Brazil. This will be our main invasion force of Brazil, so there has to be a lot of them, and they have to be able to overwhelm Brazil. If there's not enough, I'll be forced to send more troops, which is very, very inefficient and could ruin the run. It needs to be one decisive push. I send all the troops in Mexico into one stack and get ready to arid train them. The reason we are training them for arid biomes is because most of Peru and Chile is arid. Our troops aren't upgraded, so we need the extra bonus in attack and defense, and the specialization is perfect for that. We don't have to waste research power, and we can still have good troops. Next, I split my troops and prepare to invade all of Central America. All those troops are jungle trained, so they'll run through it pretty quick. So if you're wondering why we have Sierra Leone, it's because of two reasons. One is because they have titanium. The speedrun is supposed to be played in a public game, and in a public game with 20 players, titanium is fairly rare. So if you can control it, then you won't have to worry as much and not spend very much time worrying about your trades, basically. So, if we can capture Sierra Leone, we can build mines there and make enough titanium to sustain ourselves. Additionally, Sierra Leone can act as a failsafe. If all of our troops in Brazil die, then we can make more troops there to quickly invade and keep up the push. So if you saw at the beginning of the game, I have troops on all sides of Mexico to surround them so that it's easier to take all their land very quickly. We are doing the exact same thing to South America. We are prepping troops in Florida to go invade Brazil from the side, and then Chile to invade them from the south and the other side. And then troops are going to come in from the north to finish off all those countries. So what will happen is we have most of South America completely surrounded with troops, and we'll blitz them fairly quickly. It should only take about 1.5 or 2 years, which is very, very fast for a continent that is dominated by jungle and mountains. Now you can see I declared war on Brazil a little bit earlier there. If they were a player, you wouldn't normally declare war on them like that, because then they would make navy and snipe all of your troops. But if they're AI, you may as well declare war on them early, so that your troops in northern South America will start taking the Amazon. So my troops off the coast of Chile are being formed into a giant line. As soon as I declare war, all those troops will rush in and they'll just start capturing everything. At this point, there's pretty much nothing any South American players can do. You've got them completely encircled. They can resist for a little while, but you'll always win. Because at this point, you've got pretty much infinite manpower, money, you've got the momentum, and soon you'll start capturing and annexing South American countries, so you can start making troops there too. Yeah, there's pretty much nothing they can do. It's pretty awesome. And you're at war with Brazil so early that they really haven't had time to either get unrest down in occupied lands or to expand their money or manpower cap. So there's really nothing at all they can do. So as I was talking there, I started making more tanks in Florida. These tanks are going to be used to capture the Caribbean. Additionally, I made 60,000 troops off of Newfoundland. Those are going to be used to capture Greenland. So once I declare war on Uruguay and Paraguay, I'll have completed every single war declaration in South America. After that, all I have to do is justify and declare war on all of the Caribbean, and then I'm done. And I'd like to remind you that it's still 2021 in this speedrun. It's only been 2 years and I already have a lot of South America. This kind of speed is unprecedented. I always say that China starts as the strongest nation in the game. I mean, they start socialist. All their neighbors are really weak. They've got tons of square cities and their formidable is super easy. But USA has the most potential out of any country in the game. If played right, the USA can be 10 times stronger than any other nation. They can be 10 times stronger than every other nation combined. By the time you complete this and unite the Americas, you have 14 million manpower. That's a lot of manpower. That's a lot of stuff you can do. Not even China usually makes it that far. I'm telling you, this strategy works, and if you're trying to play a legitimate USA game, it's a legitimate strategy to be invincible. For me personally, if I ever do this, I go democratic after and just send people money because I don't like to be toxic. You know, it's kind of toxic to play USA and then just flex your fucking big ass American muscles and like fucking take over all the dirty Europeans. But doing this is also kind of toxic. So if you're going to do this, be nice. And once you unite the Americas, send people money and be helpful. Don't be an asshole, please. Yeah, I'm not encouraging people to be asshole USA players. All right. Because I know what it's like to be up against an asshole USA player. It's not very fun. And this could easily turn bad. I was actually very hesitant about making this guide because on one hand, I want people to know about this strategy. I want people to try to beat my record because at the moment I have the world record. But on the other hand, if this strategy becomes widely used, then like you're going to see a lot more USA players that just suddenly own 2 continents and now those 2 continents are out of play. Or now you suddenly can't play Brazil because USA is going to kill you every time. So what I'm thinking is I'm going to make a follow-up video sometime and I'll reveal a strategy I have for Brazil to fight against this strategy. Or I'll reveal some of the weaknesses of this strategy and how to beat it. For one, the capital location is very bad. Whenever I play using this strategy, I always move my capital to Chicago because once you unite the Americas, you have complete control over the Great Lakes. And if you have control over the Great Lakes, you can put down aircraft carriers. If you can put down an aircraft carrier, they can't destroy it with submarines because you're the only one that has ports on that water. So the only way to destroy those aircraft carriers is with artillery. But then you have to cross an ocean with all that artillery. So it's like an invincible capital, basically. There's no way to destroy it, basically. Somebody could stay at war with you for 20 years and you don't even make any troops, and they'll never get to your capital. Just because those aircraft carriers are insane. You can get like 4 or 5 if you want. But the strategy to beat that is to just get artillery into the Hudson Bay and just sneak it past them, or sneak around, or just scorch all their land and make them collapse. Yeah, I'll reveal some more weaknesses to this later, but yeah. Another main critical weakness is that if you're going to unite the Americas and you go to war, you have to watch the length of 2 continents to make sure nobody surprise naval invades you. You have to be very vigilant and watch the coastlines of 2 entire continents just to make sure you're safe. Because people will go from Antarctica, they'll go into Chile, they'll go for Panama, they'll go for the US mainland. Sometimes they'll sneak around and go into Hudson Bay. Yeah, they'll go to Florida, they'll go to Brazil. There's so many ways you could be invaded. You have to be very, very watchful. And you also need a giant navy. So if you do this and you try to go communist, and you get into a global war, well, good fucking luck making 200 ships as a communist. Like, it's tough. It destroys your economy. That's why I always go democratic. Is if somebody does happen to declare war on me, then I'll just be democratic and I'll make a giant navy, or I'll go fascist and make a giant navy. You don't have to stay communist. Actually, I very much recommend you don't go communist after you're finished with this, because communism is a war ideology basically in this game. Like if you're gonna go to war, you're probably gonna want to be communist, especially ground war. But you don't really need to go to war once you have the Americas. You're completely self-sufficient. You got titanium in Chile, you got tungsten in Bolivia, phosphate, oil, every resource except for chromium, I believe. But then you can just go for Guinea in Africa and you're good. But the point I'm trying to make is that if you're going to do this and you try to go into war, you have to be very watchful, because you have to watch 2 entire continents, it's a lot. And I did this before, and I was surprised naval invaded by 17,000 tanks. And I didn't even realize that I was invaded because I was so focused on the naval war until all the guy's tanks were dead. All of his tanks had died already. There was 0 tanks left, and I just suddenly lost half of fucking South America instantly without even noticing, because I wasn't prepared to watch 2 entire continents. Yeah, but I still won that war. I didn't lose. I didn't collapse. Got close, but I didn't. Anyways, I'm kind of off topic. So Blitz is usually the longest phase of the speedrun, purely because there's the most to do, and also because South America's terrain is just so unforgiving. It's all mountainous, or it's jungle, or it's mountainous arid, or it's jungle arid, or it's a lot. So your troops usually take a long time, and there's also a ton of huge cities like Rio or Brasilia or Lima. So you need huge stacks of troops. It usually takes the longest, so this could take 2 years, sometimes even 4 years if you have a really good Brazil. So yeah, this whole part of the video, I'm just kind of waiting for my troops to finish off what they're doing while I'm justifying all my other wars. There's not a whole lot left to do. I'll just try to end the wars early so that I don't have to waste troops, and try to annex anybody I can. Like I just got Chile. Yeah. So as we finally start declaring war on Caribbean nations, we enter phase 4, which is called cleanup. Basically, cleanup is just cleaning up the last of the Americas. You've got those tiny little Caribbean nations and what's left of South America, basically. So this is usually a pretty short phase. All the war justifications are really short. They're usually around 16 days. By then, you should have unrest down in Venezuela, so you can make tanks there, tanks in Puerto Rico and Florida, and you can just start mass capturing. Once you've justified all your wars, you're good. Now all that needs to happen is that you own every single city and you're at peace. The speedrun doesn't end until you're at peace and until you own every single city. So if the UK, for example, comes by and takes one city in the Bahamas, I have to now declare war on the UK and either invade them to give me that one city, or forcefully peace them so that I own that one city and I'm at peace with them. Either way, you have to be at peace and you have to own every single city. That's the rule. So that's where the randomness aspect of the speedrun comes in, is you're not going to get the same players every time. Some games you'll have a really newbie Brazil that wastes all his manpower and then just dies. Or some games you'll have Spain that goes for the Americas and somehow beats you to Cuba, and now suddenly you have to declare war on Spain. And that can be pretty frustrating, but it makes it more interesting than just pure speed, because a lot of this is speed and skill and knowing what to do, but it's also just a little bit random, which I kind of like, actually. So we're down to our final 3 justifications for the speedrun. And once you've had a war goal on every single nation in the Americas, and you're at war with them or have been at war with them, then that leads to stage 5, which is the finale. Basically, during the finale, you're just ending all your wars. You send all your peace terms and you get yourself at peace. It's usually takes a little bit longer than phase 4, but not nearly as long as phase 3. It's usually pretty easy too. You don't have to justify any more wars after that, which is really, really nice, because now you can kind of just sit back and chill and wait for all of your troops to finish capturing everything for you. Yeah. So congratulate yourself for making it this far and for doing it. Even if you didn't get it by like 2024, which is a very, very good time. 2024 is very good. If you get it like 2028, that's still fantastic. Good job. Good on you. And if you complete it without cheating, which means no friends, no allies, getting every single city, then double pats on the back, I guess. Good job. So yeah, we finally made it. That's the last justification. Now it's all just the last couple of countries. I'd very much like to thank you for making it this far into the video and for taking my advice and using my guide. It has taken a very long time, not only to make this video, but to perfect the strategy and get it right. I'm pretty much done as playing as USA. I want to pass on my knowledge though. Please don't misuse it. That would be really bad. I also, I'm sorry for the horrendous mic quality. I'm not really sure how to fix that. I've got this mic, but I don't know how to fix that. I promise next time I make a video, it'll be good. Promise. I very much promise. Okay. Thank you so much for watching. There's just a couple minutes left. It's just my closer. Please watch it. Yeah. Thank you. All right. I'm going to leave you in silence for a little while until the finale. Enjoy. All right, that's the end. So, in around 4 to 8 years, you have united the Western Hemisphere and have become the greatest president of all time. Now it's time to take a choice. You need to choose an ideology. If you decide to stay communist, then you should be going for endless colonies outside the Americas. Use your 18 million manpower cap and 500k manpower gain to bully the rest of the world. Or you could go democratic. You realize that nobody can bother you on the home front and it's time to develop. You'll become the dominant economy, for sure. Or you could choose the third way. Become a fascist and make the largest navy the world has ever seen. Use your bomber planes to destroy the entire world's industry. Or you could choose the fourth and final way, the true Giga Chad way. You could choose to leave the game and do it all again. All right, now let's see if you can beat my record. The fastest I have ever managed to unite the Americas in a public server is by January 28th, 2023. I want somebody to take that record from me. Can you do it? Let's see. Thank you all so much for watching. My name is Nate. It's been a very, very great pleasure to make this video. I hope somebody takes my fucking record from me. That would be fantastic. If you ever manage to take my record, please join my Discord server. Let me know. Discord server, link in the description. Join the Discord. I'll have a link to the unedited raw footage of the video you just watched, the speedrun I did in my private server. Yeah, it's been pretty fun making this video. I want to thank you so much for making it this far. It's been a very, very long video. So, yeah. You have a good morning, evening, or night, and bye-bye now. Beat my record.